Every one of our clients will own at least 5 investment properties.
And it's our mission to show you how. My name's Frank Ambezi.
And I'm Adrian Trimboli, and welcome to the Investing You podcast. Mr. Frank, welcome. Episode 50.
Welcome, mate. Welcome.
We decided to do a very special episode, this 50th one, because I think it's a bit of a milestone. I want to speak about your portfolio today, and I want you to break down the entire portfolio. Most importantly, though, I want you to break down for me when you're going to be buying your family home. So for the viewer, breaking down Frank's entire property portfolio, values, where they are, what regions, the LVR, and exactly his plan on how he's going to go about buying the family home. His beliefs about buying the family home, his beliefs on rent vesting, which we're in this beautiful home now, which is not his home. It's a rental. So let's rock and roll, Frank. Where does the current portfolio sit in regards to value?
In value, 4.5 million.
Awesome.
Today.
Thank you.
I've got the LVR is 77%.
Okay.
So 77% debt on the portfolio.
Yep.
For the listeners. And with that, I've got about just over $1 million in equity. So
$1 million of equity.
Yeah.
Awesome. And can I ask, how much does the portfolio cost you currently?
So not including money offset account and all that, at the moment 62.
62K.
That's going to be reducing heavily. Probably take that down to about 54, I think, 54, 52.
With the rate cuts.
Rate cuts, but not as that, I'm jacking up some of my rents pretty significantly.
Yep. Awesome. So 54K. Now, I know this because you and I...
And that's for the listeners. That's not including maintenance.
Okay. Not including maintenance. So 62...
Including, utilities, all the utilities, insurances.
Yep.
Council rates, everything else, but maintenance.
And can I ask why that does not include maintenance?
Because it just fluctuates.
Cool.
There's some properties I don't barely do anything to them, and there's properties where, like last year, I had to do a bathroom renovation to one of my properties. I think it was like 8 to 10 grand.
Yeah, I remember.
The pipe burst in the wall, so insurance didn't cover it. So that was, it was a bit of a loss, but property grew in value.
Awesome. I know this answer because I am on the exact same thing that you're on. So our CFO, so again, for the viewers, our CFO manages our entire portfolio. So we already know exactly what we're buying next financial year. How many properties will you buy next year?
Next year, I think it's 3 to 4.
Okay.
This year, I've done 2 already, and I've got the opportunity to do another 2.
Okay. So then after those, let's call it 3 to 4 more properties, what will the portfolio take you to in regards to costings?
In regards to costings, I think that's going to take me close to, depending on the rate. So if we're factoring that interest rates will drop again and take that down 0.5%, or if not, maybe down another % by 12 months from now. All up, it might be looking around the 100 grand.
Cool.
80 to 100 grand. I'm just assuming if I add in another 4 properties next year plus another 2 this year, which I'm going to get, that's 6 properties. Okay. But that's just saying if I just go out there and I buy freestanding houses. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to go out there with the next 6 purchases and do that.
Yep.
There's going to be a bit of a change with that and reduce that cash flow. And instead of being 80 to 100 grand negative, okay, to have, when I'm going to have 14 properties, I might go into commercial a little bit. Yeah. Into commercial to reduce that. But yeah, I guess with my last purchase, I just purchased a duplex.
Yep.
So it's helping with the cash flow.
What's that costing?
So at the moment, I bought it for $550, renting out for $560 a week in rent. I'm doing a bit of work to it. So just paint, carpets, and that's it. And I'll do something I got to regrout the bathrooms, and that's it. That's going to increase the rental yield to $7 to $750 per week.
That's huge.
So that'll be a 7% yield.
That's huge.
If I get the $750. So that will be awesome. That will break the property down to, instead of costing me at the moment as it is, including the equity release on that property,
so 100%
plus
loan, yep.
Yeah, 100% loan. That at the moment 16 grand. It's going to take me to about 2 to 3 grand negative. And that's not in factoring depreciation and
it's awesome.
And everything else.
That's awesome. So that's great. This is where you and I have, I think, very different beliefs with our portfolio, but we'll break that down. That's cool. Okay, so awesome. So let's call it, you're going to buy anywhere from 4 to 6 properties over the next 16 months, 15 months, which is fucking awesome. The portfolio is going to take you around about 100K, which is great. When are you then thinking to potentially sell down, and when have you, because this is not just a you question, this is a you and Samantha question, your fiance, soon to be wife. When are you guys thinking of then buying the family home? When is that agreed upon? And how did you go about agreeing upon to that?
So when we first were together, Sam's like, "Oh, it's 5 years," and I was like, "All right, let's have a chat. Let's talk about this." So we got the 10 years,
Okay.
which was awesome, and then we had another discussion with Seb, our CFO. As Adrian alluded to, we work closely with our portfolio. We broke down the numbers. We put a plan in place, Seb and I.
Yep.
This to show as well, of course, my fiance, this to show, I guess, what 5, 10, and if we go 15 years looks like in the portfolio.
Yep.
We broke it all down. If we take it to 15 years instead of 10, I'm able to keep the portfolio but actually have an income generating from the portfolio and buy that home outright.
Okay.
So that's the idea of taking it to 15 years. Once Sam's seen that, she goes, okay, let's go 15 years.
Yep.
And the reason why if we went 10 years, the difference was the investment portfolio in 10 years was going to be negative and we're not actually going to generate an income from the property portfolio, where in 15 years, we're actually going to generate a 6-figure income.
Okay. That's
so
awesome.
It was, okay, let's do the extra 5 years and actually have an income, have the home, and basically we're going to have an income she can stop working.
That down a little bit more just for the viewer and kind of explain, I don't know if you can tell us year on year what you're going to buy, or in 10 years' time, how many properties you'll be sitting with, and what you're going to sell down. Like, have you got that information in front of you?
So just going off forecasting here, in 10 years' time, $16 million property portfolio.
Yep.
$8.5 million of equity.
Yep.
Okay. That's about $7.7 million worth of debt on the portfolio.
Yep.
Okay. Now, let me just go to cash flow. A cash flow at that point in time, this is not including the family home, mind you, for the listeners, at $281,000 of income.
Cool.
Okay.
Producing. Net.
Yeah.
Cool.
Net.
Yep.
Okay. What more? What else do you want?
So then from that point then, I'd imagine the 16 over the $7.7 million debt, you're just going to sell down 4 or 5 properties, however many it is. Is that the plan?
Yeah, how many ever it is that we want to get to that goal, the buying the home outright. The thing that's in the air is like, okay, what's the purchase price going to be? You know, is it going to be 5 million? Is it going to be 6 million? Is it going to be, higher or lower?
Yeah.
So where we're aiming for, I'm putting putting 6 mil for the home. But by that time it might be more, to be quite honest. So I've got the opportunity to sell off some properties because I can sell off, but then I'm going to have a lot of equity. So by 10 years from now, like I said, I've got $8.4 million worth of equity. Now, be silly to strip the whole thing and then just buy the home, and then because
I'd rather cut my arm off than that.
just going to be more debt and more repayments.
Yeah.
So sell off a few, and then of course take out equity and use that as well. But at the same time, I'm saving and putting money aside. That's I think the big thing. People don't just rely on the equity and rely on the properties. We've got a buffer in place, and we've got an X amount that we want to hit every month that we want to save as well, just to have for a rainy day, put towards, the home down the track, but as well, that goes into our offset account. And there's, things down the track where we'll decide if we want to use that to put into stocks and other investments.
Cool. I love it. Okay, awesome. The properties now, where are they all located? Where's the portfolio sitting? 8 properties.
8 properties. So got 3 in Vic.
3 in Victoria, yep.
2 in Queensland.
Yep.
2 in WA.
Yep.
1 in Tas. Yep. 1 in Tas.
Awesome. Cool.
So, yeah.
And
That's where
then
it's all sitting.
Going forward, will you continue to diversify that? Does it really matter at this point?
So at the moment, I've got enough equity right now to buy another 2 properties.
Gotcha.
Those properties, I'm probably going to go 1 into New South Wales and 1 to Vic.
Okay, so 4 in Vic.
Yeah, which I don't mind because the Vic properties, there's a couple in my name, and then the other 2 will be under a trust.
Gotcha.
So it's basically, you could say it's diversifying because when you got the properties under the trust, the land tax, it's going to be under a different threshold, of course, but it's not all under one name. So my land tax bill is not going to be through the roof.
Yep.
That's how I look at diversifying as well. And as well, I'm going to be, buying in New South Wales as well. So properties all over the board, but I'm buying at that point in time. I'm not being hesitant to say, hey, I'm not going to buy in Vic because I've got too many properties in Vic. I'm buying in Vic if it makes sense because the property market's going to grow. It's going to give me the growth and it's going to get me closer to my goal.
Which it will.
Yeah. So I don't really care where I'm buying.
Yep.
Diversifying, of course, I'll diversify as I go along the journey.
Yep. Okay, cool. Love it. For the viewers listening, because again, I want to kind of frame this around how to buy your family home and you selling the family home. I mean, what's a really simplistic way? I guess we talk about the rent vesting, right? Why haven't you gone and bought the family home a little bit earlier? And even for the viewers now who are kind of on that edge of, should I buy the family home? Should I rent vest? What's your take on that entire thing and why are you going the other route?
I think it's irresponsible if I go out and buy the home now. Because if I buy the home now, one, I'm going to buy a home that I want to probably max out my borrowing capacity. So I buy that home, it's for my forever home. Or two, you go then buy a home and then you resize up the home in 5 years from now.
Upsize, yeah.
Yeah, you know, when you have children, etc. But what that does, if you do one of those options, regardless, you put yourself in all this debt, and then if you can't borrow again to buy another property or invest in property or invest in general, then you're actually affecting your family's life. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
Because then I can't actually build wealth. If you're just working a 9-to-5 job, how are you going to build wealth if you can't because you've maxed out your borrowing capacity because you bought the home because that's what you want now, and everyone wants everything now. No one wants to wait. No one wants to, to sacrifice. And then what happens is, 5, 10 years go down the track, maybe 15 years go down the track. Because why? You settle into your home, you have kids, then that's your priority. And that's fine, that's beautiful. But then you can't invest because, one, you got your financials are stuffed because, let's face it, you have a child or have multiple kids, it's costly. Of course, it affects your borrowing capacity as well. Once
Absolutely.
you have a dependent, you put that on your application, banks are going to say, that's going to reduce your borrowing capacity by X amount.
Not to mention that usually one spouse won't be working as
Correct.
well. So
I was about to touch on that too. So then you got that as well. And then you're like, okay, well, let's wait another five years or so until my partner goes back to work.
Yep.
And so for me, when I started learning about this, I started to realize that the rich don't own liabilities.
Yep.
They own assets.
Yep.
And I learned that from Robert Kiyosaki, and I was like, okay, he rent vested for many years. Now I think he owns a home, but at one point he had 6,000 properties and he was still renting.
Legend.
So I was like, okay, if he's doing that, I'm going to do the same. And I started learning that all these other people started doing it. And I started realizing it's just putting my family in a better position. But at the same time, I will still get the home that I want, but I can rent in this home that we're living here today.
Which is a beautiful home.
It's it sold for $1.9 million, nearly $2 million in 2023 in Victoria. I pay $870 a week in rent.
Ridiculous.
Okay. But if I was to own this home, which is about 45 grand a year in repayments, in rent, 45 grand a year in rent. If I was to own this home and I put down a 20% deposit back at the time when interest rates were around 6.5, about 120 grand a year in repayments. So it's like I pay 120 grand a year. Okay. I have one property, or go and rent, pay 45 grand a year, and you can have, at the moment, got 8 properties.
Yep.
To me, it makes more sense to do that.
Yep. I love it. And not to mention that over the last, because there's also an argument, right, that, especially now in Melbourne, this home over the next 5-6 years, Melbourne's going to have its run. This property's going to be worth $3-4 million, right? Which it will. Like, you own this home today, over in 6 years' time or 10 years' time, this property may double in value. You haven't got any of that growth, right? Because you've been renting. So there's also an argument for that. We get a lot of shit off that when we make these types of videos. I guess, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, if we look, when this investor bought this home as my landlord, 2023, 1.9 million, property hasn't grown. I've already looked at it. I've done comparables, hasn't grown. Yep. 2025, it might pick up the market, let's say, in the next 12 months. So 2026, it starts to grow. During that time, in the last 3 years, my landlord was an investor and he wants to buy more property. He can't. So he's stuck because he has to come up with a deposit or because the property hasn't grown in value. So I look at that. That's just, you've wasted 3 years of not doing nothing, sitting on the fence. Yep. Saying, Melbourne's going to grow. Don't worry. It's going to be a great market in the future. It's going to turn, this property's going to turn to 6 million in 10 years' time. Fantastic. Okay. Who cares? You haven't done anything in the last 3 years. So my take on that is, invest every single year. If you do it every single year, imagine what you can do in 60 years.
Or 10 years.
10 years. Let's just take it to 10. I'm always a big picture thinker. I'm always looking like 20 years ahead. I'm not looking 5 years like most people, or even 1 year or even 1 week. Some people can't even go, can't even think 1 week ahead.
Yep.
And I think just looking forward and saying, okay, I'm going to sacrifice now, but in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, I'm going to get X, Y, Z because of my plan, because of my strategy,
Yep.
and I've put it in place.
Yep. Okay, I'm with you on that. It's essentially, because that's essentially the same take that I have. My take is that I could buy a home now. I could sell my entire portfolio and I could buy a home, but the portfolio would cost me a significant amount still, because I'm kind of 75, 80% LVR, meaning I've only got 20% value there. Still a lot of money, but I want a $3 million home. So I'm going to have a $2 million debt, $2.5 million debt. That is a lot scarier to me than doing the plan that I have. I mean, I've got a goal to probably buy the home a little bit earlier than yourself. But again, I'm only buying that home because I can buy it outright. I get really, really scared when a lot of clients and potential clients go, well, I'll buy the home and it'll cost me 150 grand, 160 grand. You're fucked. You got to be earning 350, 400 grand, right? Like that's a lot of money. Not actually that, but you've got to earn a lot of money. So, okay. Cool.
And the majority of the time when you buy a home, you don't buy because of growth. You buy because you like the location,
Of
you
course,
like the area.
of course.
And if that market there isn't going to be performing anytime soon, you bought that property for an emotional reason. And that's nothing wrong with that. Okay. And so when people go, oh, it's, and they fight about the rent vesting versus buying the home out or buying the home in general, I think there's no right or wrong here. But as well, if you just look at both, there's always pros and cons to both strategies.
Of course.
And so I think the point I'm trying to make is that you buy that home, it's not going to probably grow potentially because you're bought in an area because of an emotion of saying this is my home. You invest, it's going to grow in value, it's going to perform in 12 months' time. You're going to release the equity, get another property, and do the same thing, rinse and repeat.
If you buy a little bit of what's the word? Disclaimer. A bit of a disclaimer if you buy the right properties.
Correct.
If you buy shit properties regardless, but I actually like that point. Usually when you're buying in a home, it's a home. It's got nothing to do with if it's going to grow, if it's not. So it'll hurt. Okay, cool. So going over the portfolio, again, we're at 4.5 mil. We're almost at 80% LVR, 77, $1 million worth of equity. You've got property values. You've got equity now to buy a few properties this financial year, which is awesome. And then in 10 years' time to 15 years' time, that's when you'll be selling off assets, buying a family home.
Yeah. And in between there's going to be a transition into commercial as well.
Okay.
I already got a commercial property, but I want to go more heavy into commercial in the next 10 years, let's say.
Okay. And when will that shift happen?
Good question. I'm probably going to be looking next year.
Okay.
Start looking at some commercial properties.
Yep.
I just want to get more growth in the portfolio. I want to have a lot more equity to play around with, because once you go from, if you buy a property under $1 million that's commercial, the yields can be great and they're awesome, but of course the cash flow isn't as high as if you buy a $2 million commercial property with the same yield, because the yields hold up pretty well in commercial. So if you buy let's just say a $750K commercial asset, okay, 6% yield, but you buy a $2 million or $3 million commercial at a 6% yield, of course that return on investment is going to be higher.
Yep.
So I look at it as, if I can come up with a higher deposit, once I start to go above that 2 mil purchase price on commercial, it becomes more attractive.
Very.
For, of course, the investor, but as well, the return is much higher.
And just on that, to quickly jump in, what is a return roughly on a $2 million asset in regards to cash flow?
Depending on your LVR and what you're putting down.
Yeah. Let's call it a 30%, just the standard. If you're going to make that move next year, what would that bring in, cost you?
So we're looking around 18 to 20 grand a year, and a 6.5% interest only, 6% net rental yield.
Okay.
Deposit wise, you're probably looking around 700K, including stamps, deposit for the property. So it's a bit of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the goal for that is, of course, when you're generating 20 grand a year and that keeps increasing and your expenses are very, very low because all your outgoings are from your tenant, plus there's not really much maintenance cost.
Of course.
Then, you can start generating a fair bit of income. That income can put towards another deposit, can be put towards the home loan, or can
Or
just,
just
be,
balance out the
or
portfolio.
balance out the portfolio
Yeah,
and putting an
okay.
offset account.
Okay. And obviously, and this is where I think you and I differ a little bit in our thoughts. I mean, we're kind of very similar with it, but my belief is if I'm buying one of these things, I'm buying one of these things outright, and I'm buying multiple of those things outright. Hence why, for me, I'm very, very, very comfortable. Like over next year, my plan is to buy kind of similar amount of properties, 4 properties, all residential, and my portfolio will go well above that 100,000. But with the whole mindset of, there's nothing that's going to beat the growth. Not even a duplex or a triplex is going to beat the growth of just a standalone home. So that's where I think we differ a little bit, maybe. But I think the goal is still the same. We both know that we'll end up in that commercial world, which is cool.
Yeah,
I just want to buy the thing outright. Because if you buy something like that outright, what does that generate for you?
Outright, you're going to be looking at 120 grand. That's now, but of course, 120 grand, let's say. Yep. So it's not a bad return on investment. The higher you go on the purchase price. We know someone's bought a $3.5 million commercial property. They put a 50% deposit down, generating 100 grand after all expenses. And I think that yield was a little bit higher. I think it was 7 or 8%, which they're out there. You can get multi-leases you can buy like a little shopping mall, like in a regional town, and it's got like 4, 5, 6 leases.
Yep.
Or same thing with some other type of investments out there. And so pretty appealing. Long leases, you got multi-leases, someone leaves. It's like owning a block of units. Someone leaves, you still got 3, 4 rents coming in.
Yeah. The risk is diversified, which I mean, that's my belief with the whole thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next year pans out. I'd be interested to see where your portfolio's at. I'd like to do this podcast maybe in 12 months' time, because an additional 4, 5 purchases will kind of leave you at that 6.5, 7 mil within 12 months. It'll be interesting to see. And then it'll be interesting to see if you actually do go into commercial, if you stay in the resi.
I think it just depends on where we're sitting. So there's a few things coming on next year. We'll see what happens. We'll maybe a little one will come. So there's ifs and buts about what if we go commercial, if not we stay in resi.
Yep.
But at this point in time, there's no big rush. We can decide that as we go along. Every step of the journey, we just review the portfolio and see where we're at.
Yep.
Go from there.
Awesome. Love it. Done. I think I got what I wanted out of this one. I think for the viewers, I mean, you guys don't need to have a $15 million property portfolio for this thing to work, yeah? If anyone wants to buy their own family home, and you want to do that very close to outright, 2, 3 properties can do that. 2, 3 properties can do it. You buy the right properties, they double in a 4 to 6 to 7 year period. Sell them. You could buy your family home outright. And I think you've illustrated that it generally is a better financial decision. Obviously, not all decisions are financial, but you're going to have to pay for it one way or another. And 120K paying for this house a year doesn't sound appealing to me.
Well, I've got a client, and they're currently got their home, costing them 55 grand a year in repayments. Okay, awesome. And they're looking to potentially sell the property, rent it out, go do the rent vesting strategy. I go, let's break it down. I go, where do you want to move? They told me the location. I go, awesome. I go, what's the rent per week and what's it equal to a year? They found a couple of properties and they go, oh, it looks like it's going to be around $35,000 to $38,000 a year. I go,
15,
awesome.
20K, yeah.
So you've already saved $20,000, let's say, in repayments because you're not putting it towards your home and you're renting.
Yep.
That there's going to open up your borrowing capacity. You live in a location that you enjoy and love more than what your home is. That's why they're doing that.
Yep.
That property there, they're going to keep it for now, but they've got the opportunity, to sell it in the next 6 years because once you turn a PPR into investment, you've got 6 years left until you don't pay any capital gains tax.
Has the property grown or no?
It has grown a little bit since they've owned it. Yeah, that has grown a bit. Yeah, but it's kind of now in the last couple of years, it hasn't done anything. It just stayed there. So that choice, they've done that choice because it's emotional. They want to move to a location that they love.
Yep.
But as well, they're going to, of course, it's a financial decision also. Like it makes sense financially.
Yep.
So I think people listening to this, just go out there, do a bit of DD, look at some properties in your own area and have a look. Have a look at where you want to live. Have a look at what your repayments are now. Compare those properties from rent to what you're currently paying in mortgage and see what the difference is. And then if you're out there and you're umming and ahhing to buy the home or in, rent vest, do the same thing.
Yep.
buy a home, if you're looking at a home to spend 800 grand on a home, what are those repayments? And then have a look, okay, if I rent in the area, what is it? And if it's 20, 30 grand cheaper, makes sense. You can save that money, put towards something else.
And buy multiple properties.
Correct.
We might have to do another podcast on how do you win your missus over or your spouse over.
We can definitely do that.
Because I think that's a big thing, right? Because generally speaking, there's always one person wanting to go, whether it's the guy, whether it's the woman in the relationship. There's always one person that wants to push more for the home, generally speaking. It's very rare that both people are on the exact same page. And you need to have a bit of dialogue to actually get both people on the same page. You've done it. That's going to save you and your wife and your future kids a lot of money, a lot of stress down the track because you've been able to do it. So, yeah, that's a challenge in itself. But if you just run the numbers, I think that's all we can offer. We can't offer marriage advice or counselling. Frank, I love it. We're going to do my portfolio. I don't think it's going to be the next session. I think it'll be in a few sessions' time. But that's episode 50. Thank you for breaking down the portfolio.
Anytime.
And to the viewers, I'll see you on the next episode. To your success.